Premier Smith, nice of you to make the time. Appreciate it.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Lots to talk to you about. I'm going to start with some of the things around the nation building project, C5, that piece of legislation. Last week, the Prime Minister said that he does believe that there needs to be a consensus built between provinces and communities to get projects going. Do you think that a province has the right to say no to a proposed project? How do you interpret how they're going to get to a yes?
Well, I would hope that what would happen is that we would identify whatever legitimate concerns that a province might have and then work through them. I know, for instance, the project that I'm interested in seeing built is a new pipeline, a bitumen pipeline to the northwest BC coast. Yeah. And there were problems in the past. I think that there has to obviously be a lot of Indigenous consultation and equity ownership right from the outset so that we can get the right route. And the other part, of course, is looking at ways that we can decarbonize the production. We've got a proposal from the Pathways group of companies, which are our biggest oil sands companies, so that we can have a lower carbon emission barrel going through that pipeline. And so those are the ways that I'm looking at how we can get to yes. I think the days of an engineer taking a ruler, putting it on a map and drawing a line are over. Some of this is going to require some negotiation.
So BC, as you well know, and as I'm sure viewers know, have said no. They don't want another pipeline through their province. You have said that you think you can convince the Premier. What would you put on the table to try and convince him?
Well, it's Team Canada or it's not. And I think that this is one of the issues that we face for a lot of years, is that it's always been easier for Alberta to build north-south than to build east-west. And I think that that's not where our Canadians are right now. With the threat of Donald Trump and the tariffs and the unreliability of the U.S. as a trading partner, I think that everyone is looking for ways that we can find projects where we can support each other. I would hope that at some point we'd have Premier Eby move to the same approach that we've seen with Wabkanu in Manitoba. I think he's got the highest popularity ratings of any premier, and he is also taking some challenging positions. I mean, he has got the first gold mine that has been approved in his province in 15 years. He has also openly said, as he develops out Churchill, that he includes in oil and gas pipelines as part of that economic corridor. So I think that that's the kind of spirit that Canadians are expecting, and I hope that we can get Premier Eby there as well.
Well, I'm glad you brought up that route from Alberta to the Port of Churchill, because that does seem potentially more likely. I don't know if it would be bitumen or it would be LNG or what would be there. But the other thing that I am hearing from Ottawa, whether it be Minister Hodgson or others, is that this isn't just about pipelines. So what else would be helpful to Alberta if you can't get there with a pipeline? And I understand that's your priority. What other things are you willing or interested in doing?
Well, I think we have to remember just how valuable a bitumen pipeline would be. We'd be talking about a million barrels a day in egress. And if you look at today's prices, that's about $20 billion a year in annual revenue, year after year, going to markets that want our product, Japan, Korea, China, India. It makes a lot of sense for us to look at that. And so I don't think there's going to be any national project that is going to have that considerable amount of value.
What about the Port of Churchill, though? What could you get there, and how could you use that? Given that, as you've said, it seems easier to do. There's more consensus starting to be built around that idea.
I think it's both. I mean, I can make the same arguments going the other way as well. One of the advantages that we'd have of going to Churchill is that then, especially if you build icebreakers, you can go up and over and start feeding the East Coast refineries as well as get your product into Europe, which is desperate for it. They want to wean themselves off supply from Iran. They want to wean themselves off supply from Russia. And so if we can find a way to get both bitumen and natural gas to them, I think that is going to help with their security. Plus, it allows for us to look at ways to build interties in our transmission system so that we can bring hydro from Manitoba, nuclear from Saskatchewan, connect with British Columbia, and then be also able to decarbonize our power grid even further and provide reliability to each other.
You and Minister Hodgson are using this phrase "grand bargain," and I wonder what that means for you. Is that making compromises? Is that being interested in dealing with emissions in a different way? What does that mean to you, that phrase?
Well, there's a couple things. I mean, the original Northern Gateway project was going to terminate in Kitimat, and I watched the video that showed that there's a lot to navigate in that Douglas Channel and a lot of concern from an environmental point of view. So being willing to say, is there a better port, a better terminal point? That's one. But also talking about the Pathways project in tandem, Because right now, if you're going to invest $10 to $20 billion in carbon capture, as well as decarbonizing the power, as well as direct air capture, that's all just cost on the existing production.
Yep.
But if you have that additional cost, but then you have additional source of revenue, it makes it a whole lot easier to do those projects together. So that's what we're hoping in the grand bargain, is that we can get both.
Would a grand bargain, though, Premier, also include you saying to the federal government, it's okay, C-69 can stay there if you're committing to helping me get more oil to market?
I like the idea of this 2-year time window. I mean, I think the fact that he wants to have a 2 years to yes time frame is a demonstration that he knows the federal process is broken, because otherwise he'd say C-69 is perfectly fine and let's try to navigate through it. So what I hope would happen is that the projects that do make that national list and the 2-year fast track, that becomes a way for us to have a parallel track to talk about how we need to change and revise the other bills in order to improve investor confidence. I don't look at it as success if the federal government has to build every single project that would otherwise be built by the private sector,
right,
because the process is so cumbersome that no private sector investment wants to invest. That to me would be a failure. And so I think part of his job is to create an investment climate that tells the investor community, welcome back to Canada, because it hasn't done that for the last 10 years. We've lost, we estimate, somewhere in the order of $500 billion worth of investment. We want to bring some of that back, and it's going to require law changes to make it happen.
But that didn't sound like you would be unwilling to accept the fact that some of the things that are in place might stay in place, even if it means that other projects get approved. Because certainly Minister Hodgson seems to suggest that C-69 is staying, but that doesn't mean that they will be inflexible in terms of approving things.
Let's be practical. The federal government has jurisdiction for linear projects that go cross-border, that whether it's pipeline or whether it's transmission lines.
Yeah.
But the question is, do you need to do an intersectionality analysis of every single bill? Like there's measures that they put into the bill that are not technical, that are ideological, and that don't really have any measurables around them and create confusion. So that's part of the reason why C-69 needs to be substantially revised. They also have a large portion of it struck down, because they don't have the right to micromanage the projects that are within a jurisdiction, intra-provincial. And so they had a massive overreach on that front. So I think it needs to be substantially revised, and I hope that we're able to get there over the next couple of years, because 2 years to yes is pretty ambitious. I think the industry would like to see it faster than that, but we've got to keep up with the Americans, and they're changing their regulatory processes to be that fast as well. And if we don't keep up, we're going to lose this window of investment.
I want to quickly talk to you about the G7, which is taking place in your beautiful province. You will see leaders, and you will have some access to them. Energy security is on the agenda, and I wonder whether you have any goals yourself for trying to convince some of these world leaders, the G7 leaders or the other people invited, that Alberta needs to be sort of front and center to some of the solutions that those countries might be looking for.
Well, I am International and Intergovernmental Affairs Minister as well, and so I've been doing a lot of that work over the last 2.5 years. I've traveled to Japan and Korea. I've spent a lot of time in the United States. I've met with every ambassador who's come through Alberta, and I've made that exact case, is we're here, and we're here to help, whether it's for propane, which Japan receives 15% of, whether it's our bitumen exports out of Trans Mountain Pipeline. Half of it is now going to destinations like China and Korea, or whether it's LNG, which we know that Europe needs so desperately, and are already getting Canadian LNG out of the Gulf Coast. And so if we can do more of that, then we want to be the answer. But it does require us to be serious about increasing production as well. So we have to have those conversations together.
Are you hoping to talk to the president? Would that be someone that you would, given that you know him a little bit, would you hope to speak with him?
I do. I mean, I put in what the host jurisdiction does have an opportunity to ask for a bilateral with one of the world leaders. So I would like to meet with, if I can, with the U.S. president, with the Prime Minister of Australia, with Japan as well. I think that those three nations are. I think there's a lot of collaboration that we can do. So I think the spirit that we're in right now is, I think we want to improve our relationship with the U.S., yes, but we want to trade more with each other as provincial jurisdictions, and we want to work together on projects that allow all of us to get our products to international markets. So I think it's a huge opportunity to make that case on all fronts.
Okay, Premier Smith, nice to see you. Appreciate making the time.
Thank you, my pleasure.